So yeah, I was here. It was 3 years ago, so it would have been 2014, with Heat Signature, which I must have been working on for like 6 months at that point. So in next month in December, it would have been 4 years since I started the game. Came out in end of September this year, so it's been out about a month and a bit, and 2 months, I guess. It's my third game. I used to be a games journalist. I used to work for PC Gamer, and while I was there, I played a game called Spelunky, which I got really into. And in particular, the thing that amazed me about it was that it was very lo-fi, but quickly became one of my favorite games ever. And until then, I've been laboring under the assumption that to be one of my favorite games ever, you have to be a high-budget, first-person, immersive sim. And Spelunky kind of showed that that wasn't true. And it was made in a thing called Game Maker, which I didn't know, but just from the name sounded like it might be user-friendly. So I started dabbling around with that, and I made a game in my spare time called Gunpoint, and eventually I spent 3 years on that, but that was my spare time, so just weekends and stuff. And when I released that, it did well enough for me to quit games journalism and become a full-time developer. And that was, it must have been about the time I was here last, so it was about 4 years ago, 4 and a bit. And Heat Signature is most of what I've been doing since then. I did kind of work on two things at once for a while. I guess I should actually have something interesting on the screen. Ooh, sounds like this one's working. Yay! Okay. So you probably glimpsed a bit of the game as it stands now, but I will go back in time to, this is the game after, I think, about 2 days of work, or maybe just 1 day of work. And still working in Game Maker, which is, I use that for Gunpoint, and I tried to not use Game Maker again. I tried to use Unity, which I recognize is a superior platform in most ways, and a much more like, I don't know, much more modern development environment. But I was working on a Unity game and this at the same time, and this went so much faster because I knew Game Maker inside out and I could just make things happen. I made the universe infinite on day one, and that rate of progress was just really addictive. I didn't know at that time that it was going to take me 3.5 years to actually finish it. This was the quick one that was going to take only 6 months and just like a little side project. And yeah, this would not be day one actually, because I think I've got going inside spaceships, that's a central concept of Heat Signature, is a game where you can go inside the spaceships. And like all good things, it too came from Spelunky indirectly, because when I was a journalist, I got to interview Derek Yu, who's the creator of that game, and I asked him, what do you think? You've made like an amazing random level generator in 2D. Do you think that same principle could be applied in 3D? Could you have randomly generated levels in 3D like that? And he said, no, probably not, because that'd be really blocky and that wouldn't really work. And then Minecraft happened. As always, as a journalist, after I asked the question, I answered it myself in my head, tried to think about what I would do if I was trying to make a 3D random level generator. And spaceships came to mind as just a thing that it would make sense for them to be blocky. It would make sense for them to be isolated and have nothing else around them. You wouldn't have to make a whole giant world, because that would be silly. You couldn't make a giant randomly generated world. I obviously didn't do anything with that idea because it was ridiculous. I was never going to make a 3D game of that kind of scope. But then years later, my friend Graham mentioned it to me again and said, oh yeah, I still think about that idea you had. And at that point, I realized, well, I could just do that in 2D now. And so this was the first version of that. You can go inside the spaceship. You kind of drill through the hull in this iteration. And one of the problems with this project was I didn't really have that clear of an idea of like what the core of it was. So I want to talk about getting towards that, how it shaped up, and then I'll show more of what the game's like right now and how it works and what a lot of the design thinking behind it. And then I actually want to talk about difficulty a bit, because that ended up being a really interesting topic that I directly tried to tackle with this game and succeeded in some ways and failed in others. And I'm now sort of thinking about how to improve on that with another update. So yeah, you could go inside the spaceships, but that was kind of it at this point. And I just kind of assumed I would come up with something for what happens inside the spaceship. So it'll be a stealth game of some kind. My favorite game is Deus Ex, and anything where you are infiltrating a high security area and you have a bunch of diverse and interesting tools that you can use to kind of manipulate the space and trick guards and that kind of stuff. That was what I was going for. So I started making a random spaceship generator, and that is in this build. This build actually also gives you a randomly generated motive. So your task is to eliminate the predator ship Flavian because you always wanted one like that and you're kind of messed up about it. I could try and skip to when I get aboard another ship, because that's the point of this build. I don't know. Maybe I'm skipping ahead too much. Here we go, that's a randomly generated ship, technically. Randomness went into that. And so at this point you could like sneak through the corridors, and I was very big on this idea of like every room of the ship is a system of the ship as well. So that red thing is a fuel barrel, but it's in a thruster room. So the idea is every thruster that the ship uses to navigate in the space level is a room inside that has a thruster in it and a barrel of fuel that it's using, and you could shoot that barrel of fuel to blow up that module. And similarly, that guy at the front is the captain of the ship. He's steering it, so if you take him out, the ship can no longer fly. And that becomes relevant because it's a stealth game, and when you are detected, if the enemy set off the alarm, they can set the ship to navigate to a nearest station, and when it gets there, you'll be captured, so you have a time limit, and you can get out of that by taking out the captain, as I have here. And in fact, if you take out the captain, you can then fly the ship, as I did then, and get into space fights, which I did then, and lose half your ship, as I did then. And I think I don't have a phase 2 of this plan. I think I was just messing around with these systems. So I wonder if I get to another ship here. Oh yeah, so this is a bit more like what the random generator was. The way it worked at this point was just, I like to kind of start everything just being pure random. I'll just try and have it do, just make ships that are different in some way to each other, and just define the bare basics of like, here's what it needs to work. And what it needs to work is, you need to be able to get from any point on the ship to any other point in the ship, you know, without passing through a solid wall. And so that's almost all this does. It actually it does it by rows. So this row that I'm docked with has 3 rooms in it, and then the next one has 5 rooms in it, and it just makes sure all the rows are linked within each other, and then they have 1 or maybe 2 entrances to the next row in a random position, and that's it. And it was good enough to like walk around and traverse the space. We had missions in at this point, so that guy with the red cross in it, that's my target. I've got to assassinate him. I ended up at this idea of like taking on jobs to steal things and to be an assassin in space, or be like a bounty hunter, or trying to rescue people in space. The idea that like there's just this big open world with ships flying around in it, and they're all kind of on their own business, and your target is just somewhere in there. And if you can find him and get to him and take him out, it doesn't matter how you do it, doesn't matter what you did to make that happen, that's your goal. That's the kind of thing that I get really excited about. I played Black Flag at some point during development of Heat Signature, and that was a game with real ships, not spaceships. I guess spaceships are real. These ones aren't. Where, you know, the ships are on the ocean, there are crew on them, they are kind of simulated internally. They have like a helm, and every crew member is someone you could run up to and stab, because it's Assassin's Creed. And at one point it actually looks like it's going to give you a mission to just like, there's just a guy somewhere on a ship, and you just got to find the ship and then find the guy and kill the guy, and it doesn't matter how you do it. And I was so excited by that, I just thought that was amazing. And then when I got to the ship, there's a scripted sequence where it docks with an island, and then he runs off down a little sort of pre-made path through the camp, and then it's like a boss fight, and it was just total bullshit. So I kept on making my game and didn't give up, because it had not already been done. So I think I won't go through like every step of development. I might show the galaxy generator. So my problem was, I mentioned that I didn't really plan out what would happen aboard the ships. I would just start with, it randomly generates a ship of some kind, and you have some basic verbs, like move around, and you could knock people out in melee, you could shoot them. And when I showed that, probably when I showed it here, and also when I showed it at a few events in the UK, the people enjoyed it, but the feedback they had was that they wanted more context to it. They wanted to know why they're doing these missions. It's often a problem with like a randomly generated game, is it just becomes a bunch of kind of arbitrary things. It's just, here's a weirdly shaped spaceship and a guy you got to kill for some reason. Those randomly generated goals, like that I showed in the previous build, that turned out to not be sufficient for players to be motivated. And I made a bit of a unwise leap in my head from like, oh, they want context. Okay, I'll build an entire galaxy. And this is the first attempt at generating that, which is ugly as hell, and but was just to prove that I could, just to see, like, is it even possible to make a giant area of space that you can fly around freely and do whatever you like in it? And it turns out it was. I'd been making in GameMaker. GameMaker, you have to make everything in rooms. It kind of thinks in terms of levels. So I just had one room called space, and it was as big as I thought I could make it. And then the way I made the universe infinite on the early prototype was just by, oh, no, that's not the universe, that's my face. Make that mistake often. In this build, you don't actually move. You are staying perfectly still and the stars are moving. And who cares where the stars are or whether we keep track of them or what arrangement they're in. And so the universe is infinite here because you're in a room called space and everything moves past you when you thrust and you actually stay in the middle of it. But then if I wanted to do like a galaxy to give context to the game, that wouldn't cut it anymore. It needed to actually have, it needed to be a real space where it mattered where you were within it. And I couldn't make the room any bigger in GameMaker, but then I knew it was possible, like if something goes outside the room in GameMaker, it doesn't get destroyed. GameMaker still tracks it, and if it ever comes back, then you encounter it again. But the problem was you couldn't kind of zoom out any further than that. So I was thinking like maybe you switch to a map screen or something, and I was happy to make that. And then I found out that those things that go outside the room, not only do they still exist, but you can also just see them if you just tell the view to be bigger than what the room is. So there's this limit that's just like purely conceptual. It just makes you think that everything has to be within a room, but actually you can go outside the room and you can see outside the room. So really the room was an illusion all along, and the prison was in our own minds. So this galaxy is, I think it's something like 11 million pixels by 11 million pixels in world space. And we don't do anything clever to optimize it, really. It's just, you know, when you zoom out, you are just seeing the whole fucking giant room. I don't know what that is if you multiply those two numbers together, but it's a lot of pixels. And we just rely on GameMaker to kind of like figure out how to fit that on screen and things. And this was like, this is the start of the faction map. So I wanted, for context, I thought, this says a lot about me, but when people said they wanted context, I jumped to, oh, I should make an entire galaxy and split it into different empires with 4 different factions who are all trying to make trade routes between space stations. These look like constellations, but they're actually space stations connected by trade routes. And they would have an interdependent system of resources where they're all trying to produce food and fuel and air and water, and each system would need an interconnected network of those key resources and would be dynamically fighting each other to figure out how they can get more of those and how to take them away from the enemy and to cripple their empires. And in my head, this was simple. I kind of thought, yeah, I think this is like the clean, efficient, quick way of doing this. And it turned out not to be. And it's not so much actually that that's impossible to build. It's just that the more of it I made, the more I realized it wasn't interesting. And something I really didn't anticipate making this was that the more systemsy you make your overworld, the logic for why you're doing things. I was trying to provide context for these missions, and I thought systems were the way to go, having these sort of universal rules and just have that govern a big randomly generated space and empires and all this stuff. The more systemsy you make that, the more boring it becomes, really. It just becomes, you know, all these factions had to be the same, essentially. They all had to need the same 4 resources. They all needed to behave in the same way. And that made them just completely uninteresting. Who cares about them? And I wanted to, like, the way this whole galaxy system was supposed to contextualize your missions was that you would need to break these trade routes. So when you see a network like that, in order to work against one of these factions, you would fly over to one of these trade routes and you'd find a ship that's traveling along it, then you'd hijack that ship, steal its cargo or kill the important commander who's there, and that faction would then abandon that trade route because it's too dangerous. Like, oh, our stuff's getting stolen, our people are getting killed, we can't run ships along this trade route, now we can't get to this station that has food on it, and our empire is crippled in that way. But that just made it, you do that once, and then you look at this map and you just think, oh, for fuck's sake. That's just that a lot of times, over and over. And it was very systemsy. It made a lot of sense. It was all universal rules, all kind of like tied together neatly. It was exactly what I wanted in my head. And in practice, it just, the systemsy nature of it was why it was boring. And so the context side of things, I just kept changing it, it was never satisfactory, it was never really working. And I always knew that like the core of the game, once you're on board the ship, that needed work. I knew that was too simple. It was very basic, and yeah, like I wouldn't split the interior game of Heat Signature off into its own game at this point and want to release that for like $5 or something. Like it just wasn't a game by itself. It was very rudimentary. Felt like I had the seeds of a game, but I was really making too many games at once, and that one was just one that I knew it needed work. I was going to work on it at some point. I was leaving it until I'd figured out the context thing, because people said they wanted context. And that was a terrible mistake. Because actually, I do believe in listening to feedback and to getting your game out in front of people and seeing how they react and seeing what they're missing. But this was one case where the cue of context, the fact that they wanted context did not mean I should go out and make context. The fact that they wanted context meant that the game wasn't good enough. Like if they were having, I think when people play Spelunky, they don't really say, like, what is the context for this? You know you're raiding a cave of some kind, but the actual game you're playing is so good, you're not asking, like, well, what do I achieve by completing this level? Like, how does this tie into the galaxy map? And so it was a tricky bit of feedback to pass, and I went down the wrong road with it. And so eventually, like years later, after dithering with this galaxy map stuff for ages, I finally got back to the interior game and started working on that properly, and it just clicked together really fast. It got really good really, really quickly. And it changed from a game, it was kind of always a game where like the things that could happen in the best case scenario were pretty cool. You could be on a ship and it could get in a fight and parts of the ship could blow up and you could get sucked into space. And you could intentionally destroy parts of the ship to like split it in two, but there wasn't really a good reason to do that. And so it had these like possible highs, these cool moments that could potentially happen, but the game didn't really make them happen. And once I started getting into the interior game properly and making it, just adding stuff, it used to be just guns and a wrench, and that was it. And then added grenades, which I hadn't added that for ages because I'm not that excited about grenades. That's not interesting in itself. It's just a thing, loads of games have them. They're just a boring weapon that almost every action game in the right time period will have them. And individually, it wasn't interesting, but the simplicity of the onboard game was secretly the biggest problem with this game. And as soon as it just had a bit more stuff to mess around with, it got better really, really fast. So when I did grenades, I made them so that they could be triggered on impact, triggered after a delay, triggered remotely. They could be just explosives that kill people, or they could be concussive that just knock people out, or they could destroy part of the ship and actually like rip it apart, or they could be subverters, which would hack things in a certain radius. So a grenade that, when it explodes, fires hack in all directions. And that stuff just immediately started leading to more and more fun situations. And I started to find that when I played the game, it would just frequently make me laugh. I was just having surprising moments and unexpected things happening, coming up with interesting plans and screwing them up. And that became kind of the tagline for the game. It's a game where you can go inside the spaceships, make terrible mistakes, and then think of clever ways out of them. So that, I don't actually know, this video is more about structure stuff. So I think I'm just gonna get into the game as it stands now and talk more about how it ended up. Adding more like items and mechanics, it's a really, like from a high level design perspective, it's a really facile and uninteresting point. It's just like, oh, you just need more stuff in your game. You just need more items, more mechanics, more tools. And I think that the reason I hadn't focused on it is I didn't think that was what I was good at. I thought that I was, my first game, Gunpoint, was very much driven by a hacking mechanic that was a really sort of simple one-sentence idea. Maybe not simple, but it's a big high-level idea that you can just say to someone, and that's my big idea. That's my gimmick for my whole game, and that's what makes it interesting. And for Heat Signature, that was go inside the spaceships. That was my big idea. I thought that was what I was good at. I thought that's what I needed for every game, was just like, I come up with a big high-level idea, and all the other stuff, I'm not good at it. I'll just muddle through, and I'll just do basic fleshing out on that. And this turns out to be a game that really needed like complexity and finesse and like content in a way that I didn't think I could do and I didn't want to do. But as soon as I started working on that, once you have like a physics system and basic damage interactions and stuff like that, making a new item is incredibly quick and fun and interesting. And so I just wanted a teleporter. I thought that's the easiest item I can make that isn't a gun. Like, guns are the most boring item you can have. Anything that you do that isn't directly damaging an enemy is automatically more interesting as long as it's useful in some way. And code-wise, I just thought, well, a teleporter could be a thing where you click and then we change the player's position to the mouse's position. Like, that doesn't get much easier than that for making an item. And then when I didn't make that exactly. I think I did that just to test the mechanic, but I knew I didn't want to actually let you do that because, of course, you could just teleport to your target and kill them. And so I had these ideas for different kinds of teleporters. I'm actually just going to check. Okay, all of these characters have a teleporter. So by random calling out, which person should we play as from this list? I think I'm hearing more Hope Coldstars than Ocean Santanas. Okay, Hope Coldstar has an armor-piercing long blade, a self-charging visitor, a self-charging swapper, concussive gun, and another swapper. Those are, about half of those things are teleporters. And they all work in different ways. None of them just do what you want a teleporter to do. It's a world where no device is quite what you want it to be. So none of them just teleport you to where you want to go, at least not without some caveat. So, I could turn on sound, couldn't I? We went to all the trouble of making sure sound worked ahead of time, then I muted it. So, once I'm aboard a ship, I'm trying to rescue Cascara Darlin. And they are unconscious in this brig over here. The teleporters I have are a visitor and a swapper. A visitor will take you to exactly where you click, but 2 seconds later it'll teleport you back. So teleporting through a locked door is fine, but if you don't get your objective done in that time, then you'll be teleported back and it won't help you. Swapper will just swap places with someone, so it's within, if I equip them both, that's the radius I've got to work with, that yellow ring. So to get through this door, I could just swap with someone here, and then they'd be in here and I'd be out there. Or I could use a visitor. In fact, if I went down here, I think I can visit into this room. And I'm going to pause. And this guy's got the key card, so I want to kill him and also take it. So I'm going to use a long blade to like rush at him. And now I've got his key card. The visitor, this arm, is like the sinister arm of the universe wanting to pull you back to where you were because visitors break the universe. And so, in fact, it has a quote about this. Glitching breaks the universe. Sometimes the universe fixes itself. We're not sure what happens the other times. So I've got about 2 seconds before it pulls me back. Usually the fact that it pulls you back is a disadvantage. In this particular situation, I think I'd quite like to be pulled back as soon as humanly possible, but I can't make it happen any sooner than it's going to happen, so I've got to avoid these guys for a while. So this one has a shield, so I can't harm them at all. In fact, his exclam is filled, which means he's about to shoot me any second, so I might need to do something else here. I'm gonna... Yeah, okay. Alright, a lot of things just happened. He did fire. The bullet has not hit me yet. That one guy, in fact, the guy with the shield has missed me. This guy has shot at me, and that looks like it's on course to probably hit. The sound of those shots alerted a lot of other guards in the noise radius. All those guards have a device called a glitch dash, which means as soon as they hear anything suspicious, they teleport to it. And that has caused a lot of guards to now be in this room. And like I say, I'm not confident I can dodge this one, but because time is paused, I can now use my swapper. And if I swap with this guy, he's now where the bullets are going to hit. Oh, and actually they missed. I would have been fine. So that was not necessary. But they've all noticed an intruder. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. I once again find myself facing quite a few bullets, and even more guards have come. They've killed quite a few of their own guards now. There's like 3 people dead here. Only one of those was me. But I still have swapper charges, so I can do this again. I'm just going to do the same trick. We don't need to be original in this game. So yeah, he got shredded there. Oh shit, someone near me was about to fire, so they have taken me out. So, oh no, the visitor pulled me back! Yes! Oh god, no, I'm being shot again. Oh god. Okay, I still have swapper charges. What can I do here? Should I swap with this guy through here? That worked. They're all really suspicious of that guy now. They're like, are you sure? Didn't somebody just fire a gun there? Okay, I'm in. I'm like into security zone 2. I was only mildly shot. And we can get away. So there were a few things going on there. One was both these kinds of teleporters, their restrictions make using them a lot more interesting, because you can't just do what you want. You have to figure out a way to use its advantages and disadvantages in an intelligent way. The other thing that's going on, and a key ingredient in everything that just happened, the reason it, like, I just laughed out loud at my own game that I've been playing for 4 years. The reason that happened is actually way more to do with the fact that you can pause. And that was not in there until the final year. I was out at Stugan, which is a retreat for game developers where you can kind of like focus on your game in the woods of Sweden. It's an amazing thing. And while I was out there, I was working on like adding cool items and these teleporters and stuff. And right towards the end, I started adding like an inventory screen just to make it easier to switch between weapons instead of having to use number keys. And I thought, while you're doing that, we should pause the game. But it kind of blacked out the screen. You couldn't really see what was happening. You're just looking at your inventory. And I didn't quite like, that just felt quite jarring to not see the game. So I made the game a bit less dark in the background. Like you could still see it, but it was kind of faded out. And then the more I tinkered with this, the more I thought, like, I actually kind of want to see the game while I have my inventory up. I kind of want to see what is going on. And I was also playing Deus Ex Mankind Divided at that point, which is the most recent Deus Ex game. Deus Ex 1 is my favorite game of all time. Human Revolution I also absolutely love. Mankind Divided is basically as good as Human Revolution. It just sort of isn't as new or interesting as Human Revolution was at the time. And in particular, like, it still is doing all these cool things. You can still combine your abilities in really interesting ways. But I was just, as I was playing it, getting really frustrated with, like, I want to use my, like, weird dash power, and I want a silenced pistol shot that guy in the head, and then I want to use a melee attack on these two people. And those are, like, 3 different, not just 3 different keys, but 3 different systems you have to engage with. Like, one of them is a bit of equipment you've got to equip, another one's an org you have to assign to a quick slot, and then another one's a thing that you've got to press a special dedicated key for. And I was just thinking, like, can't you just show me, like, a list of all the things I can do in this game, and the screen, like, what I can do them to, and then I just want to click on one and make it happen to the other. So in Heat Signature, you just click on things in your inventory. If you left click on something, now that's what your left click does. If you right click on something, it's what your right click does. And you can see the game world, you can zoom in and out, you can pan around, and immediately the game got way better. Like those high moments that I was talking about, those cool, interesting things, we were making more potential for those with the interesting teleporters and gadgets and gizmos and stuff, but they weren't necessarily happening that often because it would just move too fast to think about this. All these things I've done, it took me like 5 to 10 seconds to even think of what I do here. If that was real time, there's just no way I would have done any of those interesting things. I wouldn't have had any of those interesting plans. When the consequences happened, when those guys glitched into that room and responded to my shot, I wasn't expecting that to happen, but it did make sense. It follows the game's rules. And if it was in real time, I just would have been killed. It just would have been a big bang, and then I'd be dead. And maybe afterwards I could reverse engineer. Okay, I think that must have been glitch dash guards coming in. But if you can pause, as soon as anything bad happens, you just pause and then try and figure out, okay, what just happened? Where do I go from here? What are my tools? And once you decide what to do, it's very easy. You just click on what you want to use and click on what you want to use it on. And that pausing thing was like a revelation in terms of just bringing what was good about the game to the surface, making it a game that you can get the most out of. And the more I used it and the more I messed around with it, the more I started to see it also as kind of an accessibility thing. Like, a lot of the games I don't get on with that are really highly regarded are Twitch games that require a lot of skill and immediate reactions. I just have bad reactions, and I'm also not very skillful. So those games, I just kind of can't play them, and I don't get annoyed with them. I don't, well, no, that's completely untrue. I get incredibly annoyed when I play them, but I'm not annoyed that other people like them. I'm really happy that Super Meat Boy was a huge success and it has this community of people who love it. I can't play it at all. It's just completely excluded from me. But I respect it, and I can see it does what it does incredibly well, and that probably shouldn't have pausing in it. I don't know if that would be a net positive for that game. But with this, I realized a lot of the cool things I was doing in it, the kinds of things that I sometimes pull off in Deus Ex, and then I tell my friends at length about it and say, oh, I had this amazing moment when I did this, and they say, yeah, that's nice, but that never happened to me when I played. And there are a lot of things like that where I'm a much more like, experimental player than most, I think. I will just do something just to see what happens. I'm the person who, when I first encounter an explosive barrel in the game, I'll try stabbing it, because I want to know, does a knife set off an explosive barrel? And if it does, I'll die, but I'll know a rule now. And so I tend to, I get more out of games that allow this kind of thing. Games where cool things can happen, but they're not necessarily funneled along that path. I end up enjoying loads, and I try and persuade people to play them, and some of them get it, and some of them just don't get it at all, because they don't play that way. They just try and survive. They do the easiest thing they can, or what seems like the most effective thing they can. And so as a player, I get on well with games that that don't cater to that very well, that don't necessarily force you to do the interesting thing, because I'm going to try it anyway. But as a designer, I want to cater to people who don't play the way I play, who I would love to just push more people from the kind of rote thing of just use most effective gun on most dangerous enemy and repeat until that stops working. I would love to be able to push people towards, try this, or you just can't do the normal thing here. Look at what else you can do and just think of something. And I often, I think we got a long way with that with Heat Signature. The fact that you can pause and think about this stuff I've heard from people who tell me that they don't normally get that kind of sense of planning and ingenuity from other games, but they do with this one, which is fantastic, and that's a huge relief, frankly, and it's really nice to hear. But I also think we didn't go far enough, actually. Now, if I was doing it all again, I would love to sort of structure some kind of tutorial to lead people from playing normally to playing the weird way I play, and to getting more out of those games. I think that's an area that we can do much better at in the field of like emergent games where things happen as a result of the rules that are not necessarily predictable and that are interesting, but also consistent, that obey the same set of rules, where you could have foreseen this if you'd really thought about it and done all that. Then you would know why you just died from people teleporting into the room you're in. So that's the thing I've been thinking about lately. So yeah, I think, I'm not sure if this will be like universal, but this removing of time pressure is something I've become really like evangelistic about. I think it makes the game more accessible, more people can play it. I had a message from a guy who wanted, we don't have a free demo yet, which I would like to rectify at some point, but we haven't got to it. And somebody messaged me saying, hey, do you have a free demo? Because I have a disability that means that I don't know for sure if I'm going to be able to play your game at all. And so I was really interested to know whether he could, and so I just sent him a copy of the full game and asked him how it worked. And for him, the pausing thing was huge because he can only use a mouse. And if he can pause at any time, if he can just assign pause to a mouse button, then he has as long as he wants to deal with any situation. And we also have, we don't really tell people about it, but there's a click to move thing, so I can just like click somewhere and my character will just make his way there. I don't have to press the keyboard or anything. And he was saying that's like an extremely useful combination for him. So you get all these unexpected benefits from just making your game not about skill. As much as possible, I didn't want it to be about skill. I didn't want people to be unable to execute the thing they wanted to do. The thing I'm interested in is coming up with clever plans, screwing them up, coming up with new clever plans. And as much as possible, I want to let everyone who possibly can do that with Heat Signature. And like I say, we have made some progress on that, but I think we probably have got further to go. I'm captured now, so that's the end of Hope Coldstar. It's actually not. She's been captured, so that's the thing I was telling you about earlier, that if you set off an alarm, the captain will set course to the nearest station. If they arrive at an enemy station, you really can't get out of that situation. You are captured, but you're not dead. So there was a message there. It flashed by too quickly. Oh no, in fact, we can see it here. So tonight we drink to Hope Coldstar, captured by Sovereign. Good luck to Coley Coldstar getting them back. Coley Coldstar is their parent. I don't know if it's a mother or father, but their personal mission in the top right there is to rescue my idiot kid, Hope Coldstar, who got captured by Sovereign. And so if I can do that, we can play as Hope Coldstar again. The problem is Coley Coldstar does not appear to be in the breaking into spaceships business quite so much. She has a visitor, but then the only other thing she's got is a wrench. And Whereas Hope Coldstar, you might remember, had a huge array of really cool and interesting kit. So I don't think we're going to pull this off in the course of this talk, because it'll probably take another hour. But every character in Heat Signature has a personal mission. It will usually be something to do with a loved one, like or a friend, and they will be trying to possibly rescue them, possibly avenge them, or possibly make enough money to pay off their debt. And you can't do it right away. You need, right now I don't know where Hope Coldstar is. She is captured by Sovereign, that's all I know. And I can go and talk to an intel broker in the station, and they can find out for me, but it's going to cost me some money. So first I've got to go and do some normal missions to make that money, and eventually I'll be able to do my personal mission once I know where that ship is. So even on this level, I just hit that guy. I can also, while time is paused, I can take the gun of that person and switch to it and shoot this guy with it. So we let you do superhuman things with pausing. Like, if it's a good idea, we should let you do it, even if it stretches feasibility. And pausing makes that much more viable. So I want to get some better kit if possible. But actually I was going to the mission screen for a reason. I forgot to actually talk about the thing I was going to talk about. Okay. So we have to kill Lyra Antares here. All of my weapons are actually non-lethal, but that's not necessarily a problem. I can knock them out with a wrench. I'm actually going to throw my wrench at this guy. And then shoot this person. So Lyra's not dead, but we can fix that because we can just throw her in this room and then shoot out the window. And she's got 30 seconds of oxygen. Meanwhile, I wonder if we can knock this guy out. Probably not. This guy's only got a wrench, so we can... Do you think I can juke him and go the other side of him and try and shoot him through the window? This is a force field now, so if anyone touches it, they will... Oh, God. Okay, no, wait, I can do this, Oh, God. Because I got a visitor. So I can go this way, and then... Oh, I didn't do that. Yes! Actually, I'm going to go out the window, too. For a quick exit. So, that person's probably dead wherever they were. Oh, they've still got 2 seconds, actually. Hooray! Mission complete. So that's a kind of fringe benefit of just setting the game in space and having this giant galaxy going on. You are also, separately from your character's personal mission, you are working towards liberating the galaxy, and I made some liberation progress there. I'll show that quickly just so you get a sense of how it progresses. These blue stations are the ones I've already liberated, and if I had a liberation point, I would be able to do this, which is send a liberation ship to help the station go independent. So everyone's like occupied by these factions, and the citizens there are not really happy about it. So if they know it's an option and you can send them some fleet support to do it, then they will rebel against their faction rulers and go independent, and then they get added to your network, and that unlocks technology. So I just unlocked emergency shields, which will let me, for all my characters now, I can buy those and I can protect myself from damage for like a few seconds, which is cool. I might, now that I've got that, I wonder if I can just show you the personal mission. So this is the intel broker, Seda Fiasco. I can tell her, Sovereign took my kid, Hope Coldstar, I hope you can help. And she wants 200 acid. The currency in this game is all of these nebulae that you're flying through are a kind of, or they include a mineral that can be used as a battery acid, and that's an incredibly valuable resource. There's very light story in this game. You don't really get told that until you sort of go looking for background info. So the currency here is acid. You get paid in acid, and that's what you use. We're actually, a couple of days after Fantastic Arcade ends, we're doing an update in which the unique weapon we're adding is called the Flesh Stripper, and it's a gun that just fires acidic money. So because the currency is itself a corrosive acid, it's actually cheaper to spray someone with money than it is to buy any kind of armor-penetrating solution. Okay, so I'm going to cheat and give myself enough money to pay for this. I'm not going to give myself... Oh, in fact, I've got the Flesh Stripper. Oh, cool. We can show you that. I hope it works in this build. I wasn't expecting that to work. And how much money do I have? Not quite enough. Okay, so now pay for it, and we can see, this is what I wanted to talk about. The difficulty selection, or the mission select screen, has missions of varying difficulties. This is the personal mission, so we'll do that in a minute. But at any given time, the fact that I'm being offered an easy mission is not because I'm a new character or anything. You're always offered easy missions, you're always offered medium ones, and some harder ones. So it goes from, we actually don't have a hard one, we have medium, then audacious, and then mistake. This one is a mistake because, oh, everyone's a skeleton on this mission. That's interesting. I think that's a bug. That was true for Halloween, but was not meant to be true after Halloween. So not only do I need to get past quite a tight alarm time, but I'm not allowed to be seen anywhere on this ship, and I also can't hurt anyone. So that is ridiculously difficult. No restrictions apply on personal missions because you're just trying to get something done. So I'm gonna maybe try that one. But yeah, the reason I offer you all ranges of difficulties at all times is that I want to cater to 3 different things. I want to cater to players with different skill level, which is the traditional reason to offer difficulty options. I also want to cater to just what kind of kit you have. So even if you're someone who can only do a medium mission with a starting character, once you start to get better kit and all these interesting teleporters and stuff like that, you will be able to do harder missions. You know, one that is rated as harder will become easier for you. And then the third thing is just player preference. There are just some people who like missions that kick their ass, and there are some other people who want to win every time. And that was another thing that actually surprised me at launch. I thought that the easy and medium missions were boring, and we should stop you from doing them after a while. After you've done like 5 of each, we just stopped giving them to you. Because I didn't want people to just do easy missions forever. And I'd heard of a friend of mine was doing that. He was just doing the easiest missions again and again and again. And that's kind of boring, so I wanted to push you into doing the more interesting stuff. And then after launch, I heard from some people who were really annoyed that they couldn't keep doing the easy and medium missions. And I was surprised, so I asked them, like, don't you, once you've got enough kit, isn't it just trivially easy to do these? And they said, yes, that's what I like about it. So they just wanted to do a really easy thing again and again and again, and they were having a great time doing it. So we no longer stop you, we just keep giving you those forever. If you want to keep doing them forever, you can. You're strongly incentivized to do the harder ones if you can, because you get more liberation progress for it, and you progress more, and you get more money and things. There are a lot of skeletons in this game right now that should not be there. Let's skip right over that. Okay, let's look at what a mistake mission looks like. So yeah, the idea is there's kind of, you can just, it is a game that you can just play for the sake of it. Like, these people are just doing easy missions over and over again. They're just playing for the fun of it. They just like the game. They want to just play the game again and again and again, which is great. I didn't want to rely on just that though, so that's why you have personal missions. You have a thing to work towards with each character. And then separately, you've got the liberation progress, where you're trying to liberate the galaxy. That's persistent across all your characters. So you've got these 2 different kind of things to worry about. And we actually, to my earlier point about looking at this map and thinking, oh god, I've just got to do this again and again and again. That is why there's no longer like a particular kind of mission you do to progress. Just any mission you do helps you progress. And you are trying to liberate these 4 strongholds, and that will like end the war forever. Everything will be fine once you liberate those 4 strongholds. That is a concept that we are very conscious of being naive, and if you ever actually do liberate those 4 strongholds, you'll there's a bit more to it than that. So yeah, I want to do this personal mission, and I'm going to try and buy some more stuff before. How are we doing for time, by the way? Does anyone know? I'm going to assume I have like.
We're pretty good if you want to.
Can we do that? Okay. Yeah, I'll show this mission first, and then we can do that. So yeah, weirdly, we're actually doing an update, the one that will add the flesh stripper to the game. Oh, I forgot to take this mission at all. The one that will add the flesh stripper is also going to add a whole load of things to help people who are only doing the easy missions and only doing medium missions, because the rate of progress in the game is pretty slow if you do that, and we want to make that better. So now, if you're just doing these easy missions or medium missions, or even if you're just not doing missions, you're just screwing around with the game, and whatever you're doing, it's not being counted by our progress metric, by how fast you're liberating stations. We will just give you a character who has high-level gear, whose mission is to liberate a station, and you can just choose them, go off and do it, and you'll make progress that way if you're not making progress any other way. So this is the personal mission. It's a much bigger ship, as you can see. I am 95% sure we simply cannot do this, which is the point. It's meant to be basically impossible for a starting character, and you're meant to spend your career. Everyone here has shields, so if I had more time, I'd be spending my career looking out for shield-penetrating stuff, things that crash people's shields, things that subvert them. As it is, all I can really do is protect myself, so if I do run in here, I'm just going to turn on my emergency shield, and who has the key here? Did I already steal the key card? Oh, he has the key card. Okay, great. I'm just going to turn the shield on, and now no one can hurt me for like 1 second, I think it is. And I'm just going to run past everybody in slow-mo. So as well as being able to pause, we also do slow-mo anytime you're in any kind of danger, just to make sure you can see what's happening and you have time to react to it if possible. This is about to get tricky. Okay, yeah, we're going to need to use another charge on that thing. And I do have a visitor, but I only got 1 charge on that, so I don't want to use that yet. I can fire the flesh stripper at them. It won't do anything because they have shields, but that would have been great if they were armored instead of shielded. Okay, got quite a few people on my tail now. This guy's not looking the right way. As a security guard, he's failing in his job a bit. Oh, god damn it. I was ready with the charge, but I didn't use it. Okay, well that's an accurate impression of how mistake-level missions go. Now I've been kicked out into space, and I'm bleeding to death, so I'll take any questions. If you're going to ask and I can answer the question before he dies, I'll save him.
I don't think I've got any levels on this mic. Do we have any questions from the audience? No, really? What? Oh. You still have to take the question.
You added skeletons for Halloween. What are you going to add for winter holidays?
That's a very good question. I've been thinking about that. So we also do something where, I shouldn't say this because I don't know for sure if I'm going to do it, but I will say as long as you can take this as a off the top of my head type idea that we may not do, but when you retire in this game, if you've achieved anything of note, I don't think we have, but if I had achieved something of note, then when I retire, I can pick a weapon to pass on, and your characters will find them randomly, and so will your Steam friends. So you, as I'm playing, I'll come across weapons that my friends have named, like, they didn't do anything special, it would just be like Paloma Speaker's Longblade, or I found one from our artist, John Roberts, that was just called My Better Sword is Lost in Space. The art, by the way, is by John Roberts, and our programmer is John Winder, and our musician is John Halpert. We have 3 Johns on the team, I'm afraid. And my idea for Christmas is it would be nice if we did something where instead of having to retire to like passively share your weapons, you could sort of more directly give them to friends. So I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but something about giving would be good.
Do we have another question? All right. Can we get a warm round of applause for Tom?
Thank you.